Hello there, Rockstar. Hello there, new people joining in. Just waiting for Sneha Learning so we can begin our live. Hello, everyone. Thank you for the support. I hope this is another great international live to discuss dyslexia and learning disabilities internationally. What's going on in the world? I can't wait to check in to see what's going on in India and what we can bring awareness to for everyone who is in the Instagram world. I guess I should say the dyslexia community world. And I apologize if you all hear a loud noise in the back. I'm outside on the deck, but we are cleaning our oven, so the smoke detector's going off. So, try to close the windows. Hi there. Hi from India. All right. Okay, so Neela, if you can actually request to join. There we go. All right, waiting for the connection. Hi. Hi, Neela. It's nice to meet you. Can you hear me?
Hi, Dr. Lauren.
Hi, can you hear me? Yeah, good evening to you.
I can't hear.
Are you able to hear me? You can't hear me?
I can't.
Can you hear me now?
Am I audible? Am I audible?
I can kind of hear you. Can you hear me?
1 second.
No, I can't hear you.
No, I can't hear.
I mean, I like very little bit. I can't hear you very clearly though. Is it a sound? Can you hear me? Oh no. Uh-oh, I think we have a connection issue here. Hi everyone who's joining. Hopefully we can get our... Okay, can you hear me? So I can't hear you.
1 minute, Dr. Lauren, please.
So can you speak a little bit louder? I can't really hear you clearly. Oh no, I think we're having internet issues. So many people are joining. I'm sorry, everyone.
Please see the settings. Is it okay? Everything is going on well? Can you hear me?
Yes, I think your internet is lagging a little bit.
Oh, 1 minute. Shall I switch on to my data?
I mean, I can hear you now, but I think it's lagging a little bit. So I mean, if maybe it'll catch up if we get started. Don't use the Bluetooth. Maybe that. Okay. Oh, so you guys can hear. You guys can hear. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, it's very clear. What about you? Can you hear me?
Yes, now I can hear you.
I've removed my AirPods. It's open.
Okay, perfect. Well, let's get started. So first of all, we have 27 people right now viewing our live, which is excellent. I just want to introduce myself first so people kind of understand who I am in the context of this conversation. So I am Dr. Lauren, and I manage Think Dyslexia. And I am always interested in bringing awareness to dyslexia, to what dyslexia is, and how can we as educators best serve our students, our families, our communities. I've been an educator for 10 years, and I have worked in specialized private schools for students with dyslexia, and I'm also Orton Gillingham certified. So I do like to start off my lives by telling people that I am not an adult with dyslexia. I am just an advocate. I did have my own learning differences growing up with anxiety and ADHD, so I totally understand just how, thinking outside of the box and kids needing a different way to learn. So my passion is special education and really bringing awareness to this topic. So I am so interested to learn more about you, Neela, and Sneha Learning and what is going on in India with dyslexia. So if you don't mind introducing yourself, that would be great.
I'm too excited to meet you today. Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And I'm waiting for this day because I would like to share so many things what is happening in India. Yeah. My name is Neela. Let me introduce to people who don't know me because we are in touch with each other and there are many followers who are my students and I've got a lot of trainees who have done training with me and I'm an Indian special educator based out of Hyderabad. It's a big city in India and I've been in this field from 3 decades. Immediately from the college, I got into special education. Okay. Because of a person now who is working in WHO. Okay. She was my lecturer then. So I was doing my MSc Child Development. From then, she started motivating me. Finally, I got into. By then, it was pioneering work in Hyderabad. People didn't know what is learning difficulty, learning disabilities. Mainly, the special education was the focus, mainly on intellectually challenged and other activities. And we were not even aware of autism. That word was very new that time. So that was the time I got into this field. And I'm feeling so happy and so elated to be in this field. And I feel that everybody should have that type of commitment towards this work once we get into this.
Yes, yes.
And I see your passion. Always I wait for your posts on Instagram. And I've got my own group called Sneha. I go on sharing that in the group.
Okay. Yeah.
I think many people are added into your followers now. All my students, most of them.
I did see, I did gain a lot of followers in the last few days. And I said, oh, they must be interested in the live that we're doing today. No, it's excellent. And that's really what I want. I want people to see what's going on in the world because obviously there's a bigger picture out there, and to also know that you're a special educator, I'm a special educator, we have this passion, we want to bring awareness, we want to make sure that students have what they need to be successful. So I'm very excited to have this conversation.
And let me tell about my city, the city where I'm staying now. It's a historical city. Okay. And it was ruled by Nizams, Nizam dynasty for almost 500 years.
Wow.
And I don't know whether you heard biryani, Hyderabadi biryani. Okay. It's quite a
okay. I haven't heard of that. Here. No, this is great. I'm learning something new.
Place is famous for pearls. They do a lot of drilling and designing of pearls here.
Okay, very cool.
Anybody comes from the world, they pick up pearls from Hyderabad.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So,
please.
Yes. So I guess, can you tell us a little bit about what special education looks like in your hometown? Is it uncommon? Is that like a taboo word or phrase where families are like, no, we don't talk about that? Can you give us a little bit of a background about that?
Yeah. Actually, when I started my career, it was a taboo, but now people are understanding. And now children start telling that I am dyslexic, ma'am, please try to deal with me in whatever manner I would like to learn. They start telling now children because parents are accepting. The stigma has gone down. Still there is stigma, but still the children have because we are educating the children, they've got this kind of difficulty. They learn in different way, in a different style. It's not a problem, but they should learn in different style. So children started educating the teachers. And one more thing, in our place, the schools, most of the schools have got this kind of facility because we are in private schools.
Okay.
Yeah. In India, all over India also, all the elite private schools have got this facility where there are special educators and the whole multidisciplinary team in big schools, international schools.
Okay. So when you say private schools, is that the norm in your hometown? Are there a lot of public schools, or it's just understood that parents send their kids to private schools?
Most of the parents, middle income families, upper middle income families, and they send the children to private schools, and there are also public schools where government take care of those schools. So there also children attend the school, but the identification and catering to the needs is very less because the trained teachers are very low compared to the private schools.
Okay.
And anyway, I'm going to talk about new educational policy where government has come up with. With that implementation of new education policy, definitely we're going to have better conditions in India in the rural areas and public schools.
I remember you mentioning when we were discussing that, you were saying that changing the educational policies. So that should be a good change. Definitely.
Yeah. And we have also got some acts, RT, the right of children to get free education, right to education policy. It is there. And also we have got RPWD. It is right of persons with disabilities bill. Even government has come up with. Basing on this now with new education policy, they consider all the factors in these bills and they are going to improvise it.
Interesting. So yeah, because here in the United States we have the disabilities right and act, and we also have FAPE, which is free appropriate public education. So a lot of these things were established later than they should have been, but in the 1970s and the 1980s. So it sounds as if India is now trying to put in these educational laws to make sure that students with disabilities are getting what they need and feeling included. What does inclusion look like in your hometown?
Like when I started my career, we started with the concept of inclusion, but that time we were including the children of all kinds of disabilities. Okay. Now, like here, actually, right to education act, according to that, we have to take, but most of the schools don't have the facilities, infrastructure facilities, the ramps and all that. So basing on the facilities we have, we are taking now. And in public schools, in government schools, definitely they are supposed to take, irrespective of the problem, they are supposed to take the children. So it's happening.
Okay, that's really good.
Yeah, but only thing there, like they don't know how to segregate the disabilities. Now, whereas when it comes to private schools, they know how to segregate learning disabled and to cater to their needs, like they have got a lot of facilities.
So when you say facilities, can you elaborate on that? What do you mean by that?
Like functional assessment and formal assessments and making IEPs and planning the curriculum according to the child's needs. And inclusion happens, but apart from that, if the children have a lot of difficulties, they weekly once or twice they segregate the child and give him extra inputs. Along with home support programs, we have direct connections with the parents, so we provide home support programs to the parents.
Oh, okay. Okay, so you guys are just starting to implement IEPs in India.
We've been doing it from many years.
Okay.
And thanks to pandemic, actually, every other day we have got some or other webinar related to our field, special education field. And they're refining everything, the documents, everything, the assessment tools and follow-up tools, and everything is going on well. And we have got Rehabilitation Council of India. Okay. So it's an organization which certifies the teachers. Only people who are certified by Rehabilitation of Council of India are supposed to work in schools as special educators. Okay. As you people have got certification, yes. In the same manner we have. Initially, we were working without any certification, but now government has come up with strict rule. So schools are also insisting the teacher who, if she wants to join as a special educator, she should be certified by RCI, Rehabilitation Council of India.
That's good, because I think given student disabilities, you really want someone who knows what they're doing and has that specific kind of training and background. So that's great to hear. Absolutely. So I want to shift the conversation to dyslexia, if that's okay with you. So what kind of trainings, because I know someone did ask, there were 3 questions that were brought up in when I posted on my stories. And one of them was, how is dyslexia, I guess, treated or diagnosed? in India, and our teachers, this is my question, but our teachers train specifically to know what to do. What does that look like?
Yeah. No, I'm talking about private schools, it's in place, most of the private schools. But when it comes to public schools, government schools, I mean to say, like here, government holds training programs for teachers. There is one organization called Sarva Siksha Abhiyan. So all the government teachers are given training during summer vacation. And here, but they have to deal with cross disabilities. It's not just, they won't segregate learning disabilities, dyslexia. It's difficult for them, but in private schools it's happening. We have got teams in every school, so we train the teachers how to identify the children within the classrooms. Then they are referred to the team, and we do the formal assessments, and we call the parents, and we carry on with our work.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and from class 1 to class 12, grade 1 to grade 12, we can go for concessions for these children. If they have to do 2 languages, we can reduce 1 language and give home science or physical education. And if they are not good at all with math, even we can substitute with some other subject.
Okay.
And during examinations, we have got exams. So formal exams, we have informal exams, we have. When we have formal exams where they have to sit in particular place and write, so the special educators go and supervise these children. They go and read out the question papers. When it comes to board exams, we have got our own concessions. They can use scribes, writing person, some other person can write. Government allots some teachers for this. So that way there is a lot of progress, because from 3 decades I'm seeing this. So I'm seeing the change in our community, the way they look at dyslexia. And one more thing I want to tell, newspapers, we have got some famous newspapers, they do a lot of surveys. Actually, a lot of data is not available when it comes to dyslexia. So 15% of the school going children have got dyslexia, they've proven it with their surveys. And 35 million children in India, they have got learning disabilities.
Wow.
So out of so many children, like how many are getting services, we have to see. Because most of the communities are in underprivileged communities and they go to government schools. So the facilities they are getting is not that value. But now with new educational policy in place, definitely we hope that they are going to get this kind of.
Absolutely. Wow. Okay. So I feel like I'm getting a good narrative of what schools look like. I'm always trying to connect it, obviously, through my experience of American schools. So here in the United States, we do have a lot of private schools. And typically, so I've worked in 2 specialized private schools where it is just for students with learning language-based disabilities. And then there also, I don't know if you have this in India, but we also have a lot of prep schools, which are just schools to prepare you for college, that you're not there for learning disability. You're there because it's more of an elite kind of experience to prepare you for, adulthood. Public school is, it depends on if you're in the suburbs, if you're in the rural areas, if you're in the city, it can be a different experience. I'm wondering, because I know India has a lot of people, so I'm wondering, in the private schools, are they overcrowded, or is it more public schools that are overcrowded, or is it both?
Naturally, public schools are overcrowded and compared to private schools. That is a fact everywhere. And many of my students have come to US, but I heard that they need to wait for their turn when it comes to assessment and getting services from the public school system. Is it true?
I think it depends on the disability. So I think in my state, the state of Maryland, we don't recognize dyslexia. It depends on what county you live in. The county that I live in is one of the most affluent counties, and they will not dyslexia at all on an IEP. But their thinking is more parents can pay for private schools, parents can pay for tutoring, but it depends on what your child qualifies for. So when I was in public school, I worked as a special educator in 7th grade and 8th grade for 4 years. And when I would see students that had specific learning disability, I thought to myself, they most likely have dyslexia, dysgraphia, or dyscalculia. And whenever testing would come up, whenever, you know, those words would come up, it would be kind of like, we don't talk about that. You know, they have a language-based disability. So it really would depend. Sometimes there, you know, with dyslexia, there's a comorbidity. So sometimes students present with ADHD or anxiety. So that can be other health impairments. So then they get the services they need, but they're really not getting the services they need if they have dyslexia or dysgraphia or dyscalculia. So it's kind of tricky here because I know in the United States, it depends on what school district, what county, what state you're in. And then even in one of the neighboring counties where I live, teachers are Orton Gillingham, I wouldn't say certified because that's different because you have to go through the academy, but they're trained. And so I think it's a lot of either the reading specialists or the special educators know what to do when they see a child that has dyslexia, and then they know how to remediate. They know how to intervene, but that's not across the board here. So I think in general, when I think of learning disabilities, if it's not an obvious one, like a physical disability or like cerebral palsy, typically the first one I think of that gets an easy diagnosis would be autism. And obviously that's a spectrum. So it depends on, you know, how the student qualifies for that diagnosis code. But dyslexia is definitely one of those invisible disabilities. And I know a lot of people with dyslexia don't like to hear that because it almost belittles who they are and their experience. But, you know, we just need our teachers to be trained more here to know what to do with that, because it's unacceptable how many people are illiterate here because it wasn't diagnosed at a young age.
Yeah. Actually, initially when we started our work, like in pre-primary segment, kindergarten segment, never they were identified. And we never used to offer our services also. We used to have a feeling that from grade 1, we should start doing work with them.
Right.
But now it is not like that. So
Right.
we have got a lot of indicators. So immediately from kindergarten level we are doing, but for how many schools it's reaching, like I can't say that, especially when it comes to public schools.
Right.
It's very difficult. And we have got a lot of non-government organizations where they have multidisciplinary teams. Voluntarily, they go and offer their services to public schools.
Okay.
But it's not reaching. I think with our new education policy, definitely we are going to get a lot of benefits when it comes to public schools.
Right. Right. So I'm curious to know more about Sneha Learning. So this is a public school, or is it like a tutoring center? Can you let our audience know a little bit more?
Arts is a training center. Here, like till now, 6 batches of students have passed out. Every batch had around 18 to 20 students. So now most of my students who have done training here, they are spread everywhere in India. In Hyderabad, most of the schools, private schools have got these teachers. Okay. And they're doing wonderful job. And they're really specifically identified as Sneha Learning students.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's great.
So they always update their knowledge and they go for professional development courses regularly. And we also call, I wish like we had one like webinar with you. At least in future, we are hoping that we should connect with you for some webinar. And here dyscalculia is not much. Their trained teachers are very less in the field of dyscalculia. We can count on fingers.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the reason.
So how long has Sneha Learning been around?
Please tell me again.
Say that again.
Pardon, please repeat the question.
Oh, sure. I was saying, Sneha Learning, how long has it been around?
Yeah, from 2013.
Oh, so it's fairly new.
Yeah. Before I used to work independently. So when I made my center, then I started. And we also offer remediation to students. On weekends, they come to our center. Now, because of pandemic, we are doing online tutoring.
Right, right. So I see, so we're almost coming up to a half hour, a few comments in here. So let's see, unique soul _ Rashi, Sneha Learning, is it RCI recognized or is it a special school? So I think we might have touched on that.
Yeah. Actually, I am RCI certified, but our center is not yet. Many centers have not yet recognized.
Okay. And what does that stand for again? RCI?
Rehabilitation Council of India.
Okay. I'll look into that. Let's see. I'm going to scroll up here. Let's see if there are any. My teacher used to beat my friend because they thought that my friend was lazy and they didn't even have an idea of LD. Wow, that's really sad. Wow, and I guess that was okay for teachers to do that. That's not corporal punishment is never okay. Wow. Let's see here. True, we are seeing a lot. Okay, so I think these were more comments kind of touching on what we were discussing at the time. So I guess I want to open up the floor to anyone that's listening, because we have 39 viewers, which is great. Does anyone have any questions? Either Neela's followers for me or any of my followers for you? You know, please let us know, because as I said, I really want this to be an open conversation for everyone to understand what's going on in the world, especially during this pandemic.
Before they could ask some questions, I would like to ask you one question.
Sure.
Now it is a vacation for you and you'll be reopening. Then how are you planning to do your work?
Okay, can you say that one more time?
Now this is vacation time and you'll be reopening the schools. So how are you all planning to do the work if the schools are not opening?
Right. Okay, so the last year I left the classroom to do more systemic change. So my role before my new job that's starting, I was working in schools talking about inclusion and how we can best meet the needs of the teachers and the students to understand what inclusion looks like. So I really miss the classroom. And so now I'm transitioning back into the classroom in a private school, but this is not a specialized private school. It's a private Quaker school. So they just announced probably last week that they're virtual. It took them a long time to kind of figure out what they wanted to do. So the teachers are allowed to go to the building. So I will be doing that, but we are still doing a virtual experience. And my husband actually is a middle school teacher, so he will be doing the virtual experience as well too. So schools are open. It's just going to be a really different, experience starting off the school year, like this, without being in a classroom and really getting to know the students. So I think it'll be a huge learning curve for everyone, but I know that, we'll make it work.
Yeah. Dr. Lauren, I think more than me, you have got a lot of questions. People are asking, they're curious to know.
Okay, so let's see here. Let's see. The first question I see. Oh my goodness. Okay. Can you discuss more about special education in the US? Sure. So I guess that's a very open question. So let's see here. Special education in the US. So I would say we had institutions for a while. I don't really know when it started, probably in the 1800s. But this was a place where if you were not normal and if you seemed a little off or slow or different, you were just kind of put into this place where you were almost forgotten. And so if you fast forward to like the 1940s, 50s, and 60s, there are horror stories of people being, having lobotomies, having their brains tampered with, being in straitjackets, basically treated in inhumane conditions. And it wasn't really until probably around like the civil rights was when a institution called Willowbrook in upstate New York there was an expose that basically a journalist went in and they checked out all the conditions and they're like, there's no way there's one a nurse or whatever can tend to 100 students or 100 people here and feed them and clothe them, because these were people that really were not capable of doing a lot on their own, and society kind of showed that on them. So there's a lot of that happened. And then when the IDEA came out, which is the Individual with Disability Education Act, like a lot of things started changing where it wasn't actually a law for special education or people with special education needs to be in schools. So that kind of, started the whole, like, we have to include these students within their schools. But then obviously there were segregated schools where it's like, this is the behavior school, this is the autism school. Within my county, there are still specialized schools for students that have really severe disabilities that, let's say, the general educator can't tend to within a public school setting. So I'm sure if I have some of my American educators listening in, I hope that I gave a decent description of it. I know there's a lot more, that I could go in depth about, but I'll say that we have come a long way, but we still need to come a long way at that. We still have more to come, more to go. So I think, when we talk about inclusion, when we talk about diagnosing students appropriately, when we talk about race, I mean, there's so many different components to that. But I think we always, as educators, want to do better. But I guess that's a little synopsis of special education. And if you want to know more, please DM me. I can send some messages or videos or resources. But I feel like that's a whole other live to talk about. So let's see here. What should we do to be aware of people about LD? So I'm guessing that's how can we bring awareness to people with learning disabilities. I think what we're doing now, I think as special educators, we are talking, we are bouncing ideas off of each other. I've met so many amazing people on Instagram. I started this page back in January. I had no idea where it would go. And I've made some really amazing friends. I see Shamsa's on here, like she's in Oman. We had our live, we keep in touch. Mary, she's a reading specialist in Pittsburgh. Like I think what we're doing now is definitely bringing awareness. Let's see here.
And
Go ahead.
this is a great initiative. Like you're getting connected with a lot of special educators from different parts of the world.
Yeah, and not even just special educators, but people with dyslexia. So I know with Shamsa, she's a university student, and she, shared her dyslexia story. And I never really thought about what dyslexia looked like in Oman. And so it's nice to kind of hear that. And I never really thought about what special education looked like in India until, really I'm like, wow, I want to know what's going on internationally so I can open up my world. So really just connecting with
Natalie was also there, adult dyslexic, like you were talking about. Natalie.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, let's see, what else do we have here? What all areas Sneha Learning covers with its training? Oh, okay, so you can answer that, Neela. What are the areas that Sneha Learning has for training?
We are doing informal assessments. We are teaching informal assessments, how to go about, and mainly remedial intervention and writing IEPs and having parent support groups and how to apply for concessions given by various boards.
That's great.
So that is what we are doing.
That's amazing.
And we have got actually National Institute of Open School. There is one more. Here the children who are not able to fit into this kind of curriculum, they are getting into that National Institute of Open School. So we help the parents by the end of the high school, like we decide whether the child will be able to cope with this regular system or the child should go to a different kind of curriculum.
Okay.
So that is what we are doing.
It sounds like you're doing some great things there. I think here in the United States, different states and counties write IEPs differently. And so sometimes I wish it were like kind of a standard of like, here's what this should look like. This is what this should include. So it's really good that you guys are training your educators to know how to write solid IEPs, because I think that's very important. Let's see, if an individual is struggling in the education system in India, what would be their first step to get support? That's a great question.
Okay, please come again.
So it says, if an individual is struggling in the education system in India, what would be their first step for support?
First step is always assessment. We refer the person to a team, expert team, And once they diagnose the difficulties, then we'll work on it. What kind of curriculum suits the person, and we appropriately place the person there.
So is this would this be a regular classroom teacher saying, I think the student has struggles, and then they take that to someone else?
Yeah.
Okay.
They've got checklists with them in the class. Every class has got its own checklist.
Okay.
So indirectly, in a subtle way, teacher does that and reports to the counselor of the school.
Okay. No, that makes sense. That's kind of what we do here. You know, if a student is falling behind, we usually take it to, I think, an intervention team first, and then we look at paperwork, and then we take it to the special education team. And so it's definitely a problem. That was a question. Let's see here. What are the accommodations in the U.S. for LD children? So it depends on what the learning disability is, but typically what you'll see is extra time, maybe a scribe, depending on if the student has a writing disability. If they have a math disability, maybe they have color overlays, you know, highlighting. I have seen if it's a language disability with multiple choice questions, you know, really condensing the language down so it's not really long, pulling out those keywords that are important. I'm trying to think of an IEP off the top of my head, but those are the things I can think of immediately. I mean, really, it's catered to the student. It could be checking for understanding. So maybe if you're explaining something, you might want to ask the student, okay, so can you tell me what you just heard, or how did you interpret that? Chunking information is a huge one I've seen a lot of, where you just want to kind of give chunks of that information and then you can check for understanding. There could be like a check-in, like a small group check-in, or like a teacher kind of popping in notes. I've done that a lot, especially for math. When there's a lot of information, I think it's really helpful for students to have that PowerPoint so they can at least look at it and listen, rather than listen, look, and take notes. So that's really helpful too.
Our trainees are given training in fundamentals in sentence writing strategy and instrumental enrichment by trainers, and they are also getting trained in executive functioning skills.
Oh, that's really good. Executive functioning is a huge one here.
Now, like from almost 2-3 years, we are doing that.
That's great.
Because the child does very well in everything, but still he's unable to. So what is the problem? So then we thought that it's better to implement executive functioning skills program. So within the school level, we are starting. And when the students come to our center, also we start doing that.
Oh, that's great. Because I think that any student with a learning disability needs to know how to organize and prioritize and that sort of thing. So executive functioning is huge. That's excellent. Let's see here. And also wanted to know, you said special educators need to have RCI approval. How do you get the certificate of RCI, and from where?
Now, like rules have changed. Actually, when I did, it's long back. So we had to do some 2 months program with some institute, and I could. But now when they do BEd in special education, automatically they are certified by RCI. That is one thing. And the people who have not done BEd in special education, they have to earn some points, CRI points, something they call it. So they need to attend a series of webinars and seminars and workshops, training programs. Then points are added up, and once they get around 100 points or something, they get RCA certification.
Oh, that's excellent.
There is a procedure. Yeah.
So is that a rare certification? Is it easy to obtain that? Do a lot of teachers have this certification?
No, still there are people who are working without certification.
Okay.
So now schools are insisting that they should be certified.
Okay. That's good to hear. Let's see here. What else do we have? This is a great conversation. Okay, so someone responded to that. According to the new education policy, does our LD students get an additional concessions? Can you please explain additional concessions? I think that was to you. I don't understand that.
No, like actually new educational policy will start into implementation from next year. We have to see how it goes.
Okay. Till
now we have got pretty good accommodations from government, but still I think there will be refinement of all this.
Okay. See here. Oh, this is great. How do you diagnose LD in the US? Okay. So you would have to go to an educational psychologist and a neuropsychologist. Apparently, I posted something, I think, last Tuesday, and I didn't realize there were all these different people that could diagnose specifically dyslexia. And I think a lot of it is because we're not uniformed with knowing all of the professionals that can do that. So when I initially think of getting a learning disability code, I think you go to an educational assessment, an educational psychologist. But obviously, you can go to a medical doctor. You can go, I think, an SLP can diagnose. So there are different professionals that can. But what you would typically do, like I have a student right now I'm tutoring who just got outside testing because in my county they will test you, but they won't tell you if you have dyslexia. So he took a 2-day test, and it was a whole bunch of different assessments. So typically in public school, it'll be maybe you're having a language, pragmatic, like semantics, like that kind of test with an SLP. There may be an occupational therapy assessment. It depends on how old the child is and what the parents are suspecting. Usually in middle school, unless there's some sort of coordination issue or something that's obvious, typically you don't do an OT test. You would probably see more of that in the primary grades just because of handwriting and holding the pencil and those kinds of things. And then you take the actual education assessment, which we call the Woodcock-Johnson. And that tests your math skills, your writing skills, your reading skills. I mean, a whole bunch of things that really, if you look at that assessment, you can see, okay, decoding's an issue, comprehension's an issue. You could really say this could be an area of concern. But depending on the county, depending on the school district, it could just be an overall language disability, or it could be a specific learning disability, which really would be dyslexia or dyscalculia. So I think it depends on the assessment. It depends on the school district, depends on the team. It depends on what the school can provide. I don't know. It's a little dicey. The more I think about it, it's kind of like, where are you school wise, and what are they acknowledging, and what can the teachers do? So I don't know. I know, Mary, you're on here, so I don't know if you agree with that being a reading specialist. But and please, any of my American teachers or parents, hop in and let me know, because I'm just thinking off the top of my head, just what that looks like. But those have kind of been my experiences. Okay, let's see. Is there any online teacher training courses offered keeping in mind current pandemic? I think that depends on your school. What do you think? Yeah, I think teacher training definitely depends on what school you're in, what district, what kind of training, what the teachers need. I think right now a lot of teachers need support with online teaching. So I think a lot of places are probably trying to do the best they can. Oh, okay. Someone asked, can you share your resources? Sure. So any of my posts are public. So if you want to use them, I think some of them I have my Think Dyslexia logo on them. I guess if I just ask if you want to repost them, just tag me in it. But my page is open to everyone. That's why I do these lives. I want everyone to kind of be, around, engaged, to know what's going on. So please feel free. I have other lives that I've done in the past. So definitely. Well, it looks like, let's see here. Do you have any online tools for teaching children with dyslexia in the US? Online tools. I'm still figuring that out myself. I actually so I've been tutoring a student virtually, I guess, since the pandemic started, and I just discovered something called Lesson Space. I think it's called Lesson Space, and it's basically a whiteboard that you can use on the computer. And it's great because I can write on it, they can write on it. It's a great way you can upload stories. Like it's really great. So I would look into that. My tutoring, I'm a contract tutor, so they actually pay for it. I don't know how much it costs if you were to get it individually, but I would definitely say that that's been really successful.
Just I would like to know, like when we have to do writing intervention for these graphics and all that, how much online tutoring helps? Just I would like to know that when it comes to students with dysgraphia.
Yeah, that's actually a really good question. I think it depends on what their dysgraphia looks like. I had a student who his handwriting wasn't, it was a little poor, but it was more he couldn't get his thoughts organized. So that's something you can do online, because if you're just kind of like I would scribe for students that have trouble with that, I would give them sentence starters. I would maybe brainstorm in a way where they could kind of color code their ideas. I think it really depends on the student's needs. If you're actually doing like handwriting, online is not going to, I don't think that will really work unless there's a specific program for that. But those are just my immediate thoughts on that. Oh, let's see here. We have a question. Oh no, it went away. Okay. Well, it looks like we're coming up on 45 minutes, Neela, and I want to respect our time because I know it's almost 7 o'clock there for you, right?
Yeah. And just I would like to conclude, like India is a very big, it has got good population and it has 29 states and 9 union territories with a lot of public schools
Yes.
run by NGO. So we need a lot of special educators to cater to the needs of the children. So now I think we are hoping that it would happen in future.
Yes, absolutely. Well, it sounds like you were doing everything to move special education forward in India. I mean, that's really great about your new educational policies. I'm going to look into that. I'm very interested to learn more.
Yeah.
But I appreciate you finding the time, and I really enjoyed this conversation. We had excellent engagement. I appreciate everyone engaging, asking questions, commenting during this live. Please tell your friends, tell anyone about this. This will be posted on my IGTV after this is done. So people are free to rewatch whenever they want. And I really hope that we were able to bring some awareness in both the United States and in India to our audience. So I want to say, Neela, thank you. It was a pleasure meeting you, and I really hope that we stay in touch.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much from all our students and my followers also.
Absolutely.
And we are really excited.
Well, have a good
And let us continue. Bye.
Okay, bye.
Bye.